So, what's the plan, James Bisgrove? What's the plan, John Bennett, I guess, as well? Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation. With me, your host, Owen. Guys, the channel brings you your team every single day, run by the fans, for the fans. So please hit that sub, bring that notification bell, and help the channel to keep on growing, guys. Obviously, we build towards the St Johnstone game on Saturday. From Saturday morning, we have to just put behind us everything that's happened and get behind the team and hope for not only a win, but a complete performance as well. Got to be done Saturday. I think anything other than a win and a performance is not acceptable from the team. But the question's got to be asked. James Bisgrove, what is the plan going forward? So it appears the board have taken a very big decision to stick with Michael Beale through this period of time. You know, the fact that the international break is now over. There was obviously all those rumours regards Graham Potter, Kevin Muscat, Chris Wilder. Numerous names linked with the Rangers job, all of which have been apparently shot down by senior sources at the club. So what's going on at the club? What is the vision for the future? Now, one of the things I think, that perhaps we do need to address is the fact that since Ross Wilson departed, that we have no sporting director. Now, I know some people claim that there is no need for a sporting director, that we don't need it, etc., etc. But if you look at most of the top clubs in Europe, the Barcelonas, the PSGs, the Real Madrids, the Liverpools, the Manchester Uniteds, the Manchester Cities, the Arsenals, they all have these sporting directors, a guy who can kind of take a bit of weight off the manager, the head coach, whatever you wish to call him, and give him that the ability to concentrate on what he does, which is to coach the team and to get the team to play good football and concentrate on what is happening on the field rather than worrying about what is going on off the field. Not worrying about transfer fees, negotiating contracts, taking that away from the manager. Yes, the manager still identifies the players and says who he wants, but the sporting director then goes and gets those players, signs them and pays the money for them. That's, I guess, how the model may best work. Clubs obviously do it in different ways. Other clubs have sporting directors who identify players, bring them in. Yes, the manager does have the final say, but the sporting director does identify the players. That is another model that works. That is used by a number of clubs in England. I know that that is used by Sunderland, for example. Now, what is the situation at Rangers? Now, currently we have no sporting director, but rumours coming out of the club that James Bisgrove doesn't know whether we need a sporting director, which, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, it would be a huge mistake for the club. I feel that we do need a sporting director. I think we need someone above Michael Beale to kind of have a consistency of approach. The problem is, when you have a manager and you have him bringing in all the players, him doing all the contracts and whatever, if he is to be sacked or he leaves for any reason, you're then stuck with bringing in a new manager who then wants his own set of players, who then has to bring and do all his own negotiations, and you're loading on that manager. Whereas the sporting director can be that kind of consistency, that kind of one approach, that kind of guy who is always there. In America, it works very successfully with their general managers. The NFL teams have general managers above their head coaches, and the general managers are responsible for, trading for players, for putting the contracts in place and all that. And it takes off the head coaches who concentrate purely on coaching the team. And after all, aren't we always been told that Michael Beale is a tactical genius, a coach, which I don't think we've seen this season, but we need to sort of give him the opportunity, I think, if he is going to prove himself to be the best man for Rangers, to concentrate solely on what he is meant to be good at, which is coaching the team. He's got a huge week ahead of him, with the games coming thick and fast, with the St Johnstone game, the Betis game, for example. Nothing less than, like I said, 5 wins out of the next 5 is acceptable, and 5 performances are needed by the team. There's also a situation of what is he going to do with team selection. He goes into tomorrow's game with obviously all those new signings, and recently he's only been using 2 and 3 of these new signings. Lammers and £6 million Danilo sat on the bench, only playing bit part roles. I mean, what message is that sending to those players? All these marquee summer signings and nothing happening with them. The only players playing are, like Dessers and Butland. Butland obviously has been fantastic. Dessers has been an utter joke. But at the end of the day, we do need to start to see these signings start to come They've had more than enough time to settle in now, more than enough time to gel. And after 2 weeks of the international break, and not many of them been away with their countries, they must have been working on the training ground, you'd hope, and forming some sorts of relationships with each other, and forming some sorts of coherent approach to the game. So, look, at the end of the day, we've got to see that improvement, and we've got to see some of these new signings actually proving their worth, what they've paid in fees or what they got in signing on fees. That's another thing that needs to be remembered. Free transfers are not free. So it was an interesting article on Four Lads Had a Dream, and I really respect Stevie Clifford and all that the Four Lads do, and I think they're right with what they say. This is what they had to say about the situation at Ibrox, which I think is very telling indeed. They did slam to some degree the wastage at the club. This is put simply translating onto the pitch, and whose marquee signings are sitting on the bench after a handful of games. We have seen enormous waste in terms of our transfer spend over the 2 summers, and a bloated wage bill still being carried. And they're right here. We are carrying a vastly bloated wage bill. We haven't shipped on perhaps anywhere near enough players. We haven't moved them on. We haven't got rid of players who are going into the final years of their deal. Now, worrying rumours that Rangers are going to offer Borna Barisic a new contract, which to me is just ridiculous. Yes, it may be that we can get a fee for him next summer, but Borna is not getting any younger. He's not going to get any better. He's not going to develop any further. So why are we giving a player that's not going to improve, and he's only going to get worse and get slower as he gets older, a new deal? I don't understand this, especially if the aim is to lower the average age of the squad. For me, Rangers have wasted an awful lot of cash over the last couple of transfer windows. Yes, we've brought in some quality players like, for example, Raskin and Cantwell and Butland. But, there's been a lot of wastage. You look at, the money paid for Cholak, and then he's shipped on. Yes, we got our money back. Ridvan Yilmaz, who now appears to be out of favour. There's just, for me, a whole sort of it needs to be looked at, and we need someone in charge, a sporting director. I know Ross Wilson was partly responsible for that, but a sporting director who actually knows what he's doing. We need to take the weight off Coach Michael Beale to give him the opportunity to succeed. At the moment, we are not giving him the best possible opportunity to succeed. I think we're expecting a lot of him, and him doing 2 roles. Now, I know Rangers have overhauled their scouting thing, thank God, finally, and starting to use data projections and certain figures and more sort of analytical approach that they haven't used previously, and rumours that John Park will be going. But Rangers do need a new approach, and look, they need a new plan, and they need a new sporting director. I think that if the club decide not to go with a sporting director, it would be a massive, huge mistake for me. I think there are plenty of good candidates out there. There's people they could bring in. There's even ex-players they could bring in. Craig Moore is one name that springs to mind, a man who also knows the Far Eastern market, which is certainly an area where a lot of promising, talented players have come from in recent years. So, look, what is the plan? We need the board. I think the board have kind of gone backward on what they started doing. James Bisgrove and John Bennett started so well, taking over from Douglas Park and Stuart Robertson, who were, in all essences, very, sort of quiet and not very media savvy. It seemed that Bennett and Bisgrove were more media savvy, more open with the fans, but now it seems that that's gone backward. There's been very little backing of Beale publicly by the board. And I'm not just talking about in response to the social media. I'm talking about in terms of the toxicity of the Ibrox atmosphere after that Old Firm game. They were there. They must have felt that and must have known that the fans clearly were not happy with the team or Michael Beale. So I think we need to get, again, back to that more openness from the board. What is the position? Are we getting a sporting director? Are we going to see an overview, an overhaul of this process of signing players and bringing players through? Another worrying thing for me is the lack of the development of the young players. Alex Lowry going out on loan. We've not seen many young players come through. For me, Bailey Rice needs to be in the first team squad week in, week out. If you're good enough, you're old enough. And for me, Bailey is definitely good enough. And look, I'd much rather see Bailey Rice run out tomorrow on the field rather than John Lundstrom, who I think will start tomorrow for Rangers, unfortunately. But look, at the end of the day, we need to know what's going on. The board need a more coherent plan for me, as does the manager. It does appear a bit chaotic, and we need to see a relaunch as of tomorrow of this team if they're really going to move forward and be successful this season and bring 56 back and not let that lot from across the city catch up with us any further. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. A bit of a short video this morning. I am out and about, so thank you for watching. Please smash the sub, and obviously 2 things I always need you to do for me. Number 1 is smash the like, and number 2, remember, we are the people.